Okay, then, John.
Yeah, are we ready for agenda adjustments?
We're ready for announcements. Do you want to adjust the agenda first?
Unfortunately, yes. I got a message this afternoon from Ryan Seneca, our county commissioner, who we were hoping would meet with us this afternoon. He has been called into an executive session of the county commission and doubts that he will be here. Told him if he showed up towards the end, we could squeeze him in, but I'd be surprised if that happens.
Okay, well, then we have lots of time to chat with Beyond Toxics, and you guys get to go first. Okay, so we do have a number of announcements. Harry, I see your hand.
Sure. So I was wondering, I had tried to send an email to the board. I know there's a couple folks here that were specifically interested in the North Eugene High School discussion. I appreciate that being mentioned in the newsletter, but perhaps we could devote some of Ryan's time to talking about the North Eugene High School and what the community would like to see done with that site.
Good idea. Thank you for the suggestion. Jolene?
Thank you. Hi. So there was a great link that we could submit ideas to, just in terms of following on what Harry said, and in terms of putting in writing things that you might suggest for uses for the old high school. So I'm speaking as the chair of the Social Justice Committee. I wanted to give a brief committee report. We continue to meet once a month, and this month we had a report from the Indigenous Inquiry Group, which that's a new name. They were called the Land Acknowledgement Study Group. And they continue to meet, I think every 2 weeks or at least every month, primarily focusing on study and education at this point, planning some further community outreach, which might include to the local schools, inviting some Indigenous leaders to participate in that outreach, considering a public neighborhood presentation, which would include, we might invite Santa Clara community organizations. So looking at kind of a broader community outreach, I would think sometime in the next year or so, which is very exciting. We also have been invited as a committee to report to the Neighborhood Leadership Council at the February meeting. And this will include Social Justice Committee representatives from River Road, Santa Clara, Friendly Area Neighbors, and Active Bethel Community. So that's a great group, and exciting that they're drawing from multiple places in the community. I wanted to point out, and I was hoping that our county commissioner would be here tonight. Apparently there's a levy to support, or there's a ballot measure in May to support a continuation of the levy to support jail funding, which includes additional beds so that people who are charged or convicted of violent crimes aren't released into the community. There's a lot of information about this levy. I'm not an expert on it, but there is funding for mental health support as well. And I can put a link in the chat with more information about the jail levy. So basically this wouldn't be an increase in our taxes, and it would be a continuation of support for a levy that was passed, I think, in 2013. So more to learn about that. The organization Showing Up for Racial Justice supports this jail levy, and I think it's good for all of us to know some of the details. So again, I'm disappointed that our county commissioner isn't here. We will be meeting in March, on March 8th, 5 to 6:30 p.m. You're all invited. Our topics are going to include a review of local and state police policy reforms that have taken place over the last year, and also further discussion about outreach from an organization called the Center for Dialogue and Resolution, which focuses on restorative justice and has asked to do community presentations. So they would like to come to the River Road community meeting and discuss more about the ideas of restorative justice. This is an organization that receives referrals from the circuit court and the district attorney's office. And so I think it's an important conversation for us to have, to learn more about what's available and how that might be something that we might want to use as a resource in our neighborhood. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jolene. Other announcements? Brenda, I don't see Jan here. Do you want to make his announcement for him?
Yes. On the 4th of March, there is a work party sponsored by Jan Spencer and River Road Community Organization and the City of Eugene, working as a work party in the Hazelnut Grove. Bikes are encouraged, although you could park and walk to the Grove. It's from 10 in the morning until 12, and people need to wear appropriate clothing, and it's a work party, rain or shine.
And they're really fun.
And-
Way to contribute to the neighborhood and meet new people.
And I
John.
just dropped the information in, although forget about it says there's a link to something, but there isn't. I put it in the chat.
Okay. John. John, did you have an announcement? You're muted.
He's muted.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. This is an announcement that maybe Beth and Susan would want to chime in on as well, because they are members of the Community Advisory Committee for the Neighborhood Plan for River Road and Santa Clara. We published in the newsletter, but I'll just mention it again, that the city's planning staff has come to the CAC and said that we're sorry, but we're concerned about our funding and our staffing in the future. And we want to propose withdrawing from developing the corridor code and the greenway code. We are working with them to see if we can convince them that there's some way that they can not lose $750,000 worth of effort thus far to develop that plan. And we'll see how that turns out. So stay tuned, but I just want to let you know. Thank you.
Susan.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to highlight to everyone, if you haven't already seen in your mailbox, those of you that are in the River Road community should have received a newsletter. Please take a look at that. You will notice inside there is a detailed information about a recycling event that we are going to be having on April the 16th. And that is going to be at Emerald Park in the shelter area. And I'm going to be putting a URL in the chat window that will take you to a very detailed list of what is and is not available to be brought to the River Road recycling event. But at a high level, it is for the 2s, 4s, and 5s that do not go in your commingle bin. For details, please read the newsletter article and check out the riverroadco.org /recycling URL. Thanks so much.
Great work, Susan. So I have a couple of announcements myself. First of all, you may or may not realize that once again, it's March next month, and we have another election for new board members. And to vote or to run as a board member, you need to have attended at least one meeting in the past year and live in the neighborhood or own a business in the neighborhood. And that's why we take attendance, which you should put your name down if you haven't already. So we want to invite anybody who just wants more information about that to come to a little social at Country Time Pizza What is the address of Country Time Pizza, Brenda? It's by Reality Kitchen on River Road. And at 6 o'clock on the 21st, which is a week from Tuesday. And this will just be an informal meet and greet. We have to get approval from the board to spend some money to buy us all some pizzas. And if you have any other questions, or if you know someone you'd like to nominate, you should email co-chairs. Okay. Then John, I know, don't worry. So, okay, so there's an unrelated, an event that's happening in the neighborhood that's not, it's one of my different hats of community organizing. There's a Port Townsend, Washington is a small town, and it's got this really interesting community involvement organization. It's called 2020, Port Townsend 2020. And they've got, one of the things they do is emergency management things. They have 130 Met My Neighborhood pods as a result of the kind of level of organizing that they've done there. So they have groups of citizens that are all involved in different issues like transportation, like food, all the things that we always talk about, but instead of organizing it into neighborhoods, they've organized it into issues. And they've been doing this sustainably for 15 years now. So we're going to invite them to be on a Zoom panel. And if you are interested in that, please DM me here and I will get you the information. That will be on the 28th at 7 o'clock. It'll be both in person, it'll be hybrid, 356 Horn Lane and also on Zoom. Should be really, really interesting to see how another small town does this stuff. Okay. Then we have been talking quite a bit about when we should have hybrid meetings, when we should see each other's full bodies again. And so we have a little poll, and we want to know what your opinion is about shifting to a hybrid meeting. Hybrid meeting is when you have both in person and online. And the annex here has very good facilities to do that. And I'm looking for the launch the poll thing. There it is. So if you would just take a minute to check one of these boxes that I just opened, and then we can get a sense of what people here would be most interested in doing.
Claire, perhaps if anybody has any questions, we could answer those too.
Yeah,
Or-
while this is happening, sure.
In the past, we have met at the River Road Parks and Recreation Annex on 1050 River Road. We still have the ability to do that. They have a state-of-the-art hybrid communication system, so that's available to us. But it would be nice to have people help us manage that if we go that way.
Right. My experience is that if you have a hybrid meeting, you really need a facilitator focus on people in Zoom world to pay attention, to bring them into the meeting so they don't feel like they're in the, observing gallery, that they can actually participate. And so we would need a volunteer or several volunteers who'd like to serve in that way. Okay, I see that we have 29 votes so far. 69% would prefer a hybrid meeting. And 31% would not come to an in-person meeting at all. Beth, I see your question.
Claire, has there been any further discussion about changing the night of the meeting? We talked about that a little bit because it conflicts with the city council meetings.
That's partially a question of, can we get the location, the facility on another night? In the past, we haven't been able to, but we wanted to check and see if that's this first. John?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to talk with Kennedy Fung, who runs the adult programs for the park district, and we did identify a potential of a couple of nights where we could meet either Wednesday or Thursday of the first weekend in the month as a possibility. So that's yet another question, but yeah, we're trying to see if we can make that happen. The real problem for us is that, first of all, a lot of holidays are on the first Monday or on a Monday, and we run into that. The other issue is that city council meets on Monday nights and keeps us from being involved, and more importantly, keeps our city councilor from being able to attend. So yeah, we may have that coming up soon as well.
Okay, so I noticed that a couple people have, or two people on one computer. That's okay. Just it's useful to know what your vote is. So we have, at this moment, we have a majority, 70% interested in having hybrid meetings. Brenda?
Just to go back for a second to the what night of the meeting, while we have people, could you just do a little quick vote where people hit red or green for stay, or, well, how many people would be okay with meeting on a Thursday?
You know what she means by red or green? You go to the reactions
Thanks.
at the bottom of your screen, and there's a little green check mark.
Well,
And
it's Wednesday or Thursday, so I'm not sure if there's value in checking.
Well, that's
either
why
day.
she only asked about Wednesday, once at a time.
Said Thursday, but okay.
Okay, or Wednesday. What is it, Brenda? When, Thursday?
I just wanted the community to give the board a sense of, you can ask both questions. Sorry, I only heard one. I just would like a temperature from the community because it's a board decision, but it's helpful to have information.
So are you asking about Wednesday or Thursday?
You're you ask both questions would be helpful. You
Okay.
decide, you running it.
Those video stuff is BS.
Okay. So would you just give us a green check if Wednesday would work for you? So that's 18. And then take off your green checks. Uncheck yourself and check yourself if Thursday would work for you. Okay, so we have, oh, here we go, getting some more. Okay, we have between 16 and 18 yes on Thursday, and just a fewer than that on Wednesday. We will take that under advisement, and thank you for giving us your input. And you can uncheck yourself now. Anything else, John? Okay, then, well,
All this shit is bullshit. The whole fucking meeting, all of this.
Nick,
all
if you're
the-
not going to have constructive input in the meeting, you're invited
It
to
is
leave.
constructive because this is bullshit. Like I can't even. There's no constructive anything.
We
You
haven't
guys are all,
started
like,
the meeting yet.
You guys are even. You're all in clown world.
Yes, I suggest we mute Nick. Sorry, Nick, but if you can't participate positively, we're muting you.
Okay, so we would like to introduce and invite Beyond Toxics, who do really good grassroots work across a lot of different interests and communities, to share with us their newest proposal. And that will be very important to this neighborhood. So I guess Meet is speaking.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm actually going to be the one that starts off the meeting. Claire, thank you for introducing us. I would like to introduce myself again. My name is Arjuri Arberry Baribo, and I'm the West Eugene Community Organizer for Beyond Toxics. I want to thank you all for allowing us an opportunity to speak with you this evening on this very important topic, and that topic being the public health overlay zone, why we're advocating for it, and how it can help the community. So if you want to go to the next slide, Meet. So we are, I'm sorry, I can't see what slide you're on because I'm on my notes. Are you on the second slide? Okay.
Oh, yeah, now on the second slide,
Okay,
sorry.
okay, that's okay. So we're Beyond Toxics, and we are an environmental justice grassroots organization here in Eugene. And we are trying to cause a ruckus with our public health overlay zone. And the reason why is because a public health overlay zone will add an additional, the public health overlay zone will add additional zoning laws that will protect the community from potential negative health impacts that could be created by manufacturing within the community. That picture that you're seeing there is a photo of J.H. Baxter. And if you see there on the left-hand side, I don't know if you can show me, on the left-hand side down at the bottom are holding ponds, and that's where all the nastiness is stored. If you look over to the bottom right of that picture, Meet, if you can show with your cursor, that is treated wood over in that corner there. And it just sits there and sort of off gases. Not now because they're closed, but that's what it did in the past. Down up just a little bit further from those logs are the things that are called retorts, which are like a giant oven. And that's where they put the wood to treat it. So once they put that wood in the retorts to treat it, they put it in, there's a little shed back there. They put those things straight from the retort into that shed, which causes a lot of off-gassing. If you want to go to the next slide, Meet. 99% of all of air emissions are in the 97402 area. And why do we want this policy in place? The Bethel neighborhood is sandwiched between, I'm sorry, if you want to go to that next picture, Meet, I'm going to talk about these for just 1 second before I go on to the map. Okay, so this photo that you see right here is a park in the West Eugene area. And that circle back there is showing some emissions coming from industrial manufacturing back there. This next slide that you see is there's some smokestacks that you see that are just right next to residential homes. And the big picture that you see of all the neighborhood is an aerial photo of the neighborhood right across the street from J.H. Baxter. So why do we want to have this policy in place? Well, the Bethel neighborhood is sandwiched between concentrated areas of industrial polluters along West 11th and Highway 99. What happens when those air currents come out is that they move, the air currents move the pollution, move the air pollutants right into residential neighborhoods. So these manufacturers, they're polluting the air, and then the air currents allow those pollutants to just settle on residential neighborhoods, whether that's at a park, whether that's at a home, whether that's at a church. It pollutes, and the air currents lay it out onto the neighborhoods. As I said before, 95% of all air toxic emissions is in the West Eugene 97402 area, with higher rates of cancer near the industrial areas. There's a lower life expectancy of 70.2 years in the Train Song area versus 87.9 years in the Southern University neighborhood. This list that you're looking at here that Meet is showing is a list of the worst industrial polluters in Eugene. and they are ranked 1 through 43 on this chart, according to the Clean Air Oregon program. 1 through 43 on this chart shows the worst polluters in Eugene, 1 being the facility with the most public health risk. And this is relevant to you all because the number 1 on that list, according to Clean Air Oregon, is Murphy Plywood. And there's also number 34 that you see on that map is Lane Forest products. So this public health overlay zone, yes, we initially were like, yes, we want it in West Eugene. That's how we got it on the map. We're hoping, and we have spoken with several council members that are hoping that this policy can be adopted citywide. And my mind is thinking not only citywide, not only countrywide, worldwide. I think this is a policy that is necessary for many communities because pollution is not just a local problem, it's a world problem. Many of the folks that live in West Eugene are low income or BIPOC families, Black, Indigenous, and people of color families. Families that have shared with Beyond Toxics that they have had someone in their family who has been sick or had their health impacted by living in West Eugene, or somebody that they know has had their lives impacted by living close to industry. Most of these folks, they don't have any choice but to stay in the neighborhood because the finances just don't allow for them to be able to move to protect their families for any potential health impacts. If you want to go to the next slide, Meet. Back in between the years of 2006 and 2018, the Environmental Health Assessment Program consulted with the Oregon State Cancer Registry to investigate cancer cases around the J.H. Baxter site. As I said, Beyond Toxics, we hear lots of community concerns and community health problems about folks that are living close to those industrial facilities. And because of the work of Beyond Toxics, the West Eugene community and our neighborhood partners, and which I've heard one of you gals mention, which is ABC, one of our neighborhood partners, there was another cancer study that was done. We asked them back in 2021 to do another cancer study. This time we wanted them to include also lung cancer and Hodgkin's lymphoma. And they did find higher cases, higher rates of lung cancer and Hodgkin's lymphoma in the industrial area near Roosevelt. And this is highly significant to my family because we are one of those stories of a family whose lives have been impacted by industrial pollution. In 2018, my then 17-year-old daughter was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is one of those, the cancers that were higher rates there in the industrial area. She's now 18 and just walking by, doesn't want me to talk about her, but she is now 18. She was 18 on the 31st of this year, and she's on her way to college and graduating, and we couldn't be more blessed than to have her be able to walk around in her house. Her birthday was actually the same day that J.H. Baxter closed down last year, which is January 31st. So that was pretty kismet to me. That doesn't hold true for everyone. Everyone doesn't have a child that makes it. Some folks don't come out on the other side of cancer, and a lot of people lose their lives and their families and their loved ones. Had there been a public health overlay zone in place, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in depth as we go on through the presentation, had there been something like that in place, I believe that my child wouldn't have gotten sick. If there was a policy like the public health overlay zone in place, we could avoid situations like what happened with J.H. Baxter, because there never would have been people that close to industry, whether that's houses, whether that's churches, whether that's schools, whether that's parks, whether that's bike paths. Wherever there's people, there should not also be industry that close. If you want to go to the next slide, Meet, and sort of orient folks here. So what we have done is, hold on, I got to look at my notes here. Sorry about that. make it a little bit bigger. Sorry, I'm on my notes and not in the right spot. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the Clear Lake overlay zone. And if you can point out, Neat, right there, that lighter gray is where the Clear Lake overlay zone is. And when the city of Eugene expanded this model, it expanded when, the city expanded the urban growth boundary out that way in Clear Lake. So they implemented the Clear Lake overlay zone. And what an urban growth boundary is that each city in Eugene is surrounded by an urban growth boundary. And a line is essentially drawn on planning maps to designate where cities can expect to grow over a 20-year period. This growth can occur with new houses, industrial facilities, businesses, or public facilities such as parks and other places. So we modeled the public health overlay zone after the Clear Lake overlay zone. And as I said, that gray area that you see is where the Clear Lake overlay zone is. And that is out by Jerry's and between Jerry's and the airport. And what the Clear Lake overlay zone did was they banned the worst land uses. They required that manufacturing be done indoors, closest to homes, parks, and schools. This applies to properties south of the Clear Lake Road. So anything south of Clear Lake Road has to have their manufacturing done indoors. They also increased the odor and noise and vibration standards. And they had a public meeting requirement for this, and they had a pre-letter clearance from RRCO to be able to do this. So there's already something that's been in place for the protection of folks. And so we just adopted some of those, some of the things from the Clear Lake overlay zone and put it into our public health overlay zone. In the very corner there, Meet, if you can show in the very corner of this map is where Jerry's is, if that can have an orient you a little bit. Go to the next slide, Meet. So the policy regulations for the Clear Lake overlay zone are that it restricted or prohibited within the overlay zone to avoid the commingling of odorous emissions and particulate downfalls with nearby residents, schools, and parks. And some of the things that we included in that public health overlay zone that we adopted from the Clear Lake overlay zone are the ban on land uses with highest likelihood of negative impacts on human health. Examples of that are wood preservation, which was what J.H. Baxter, what that facility was, chrome and nickel plating, rubber and plastic manufacturing, chemical products manufacturing, and garbage dumps. So those are some of the things that we adopted from the Clear Lake overlay zone to put into our public health overlay zone. Also, as I said, there is that buffer zone covering all the properties south of Clear Lake. So there's that buffer zone that says that any sort of manufacturing south of Clear Lake has to be done indoors. Again, those examples are wood preservation, chrome and nickel plating, rubber and plastic manufacturing, chemical products manufacturing, and garbage dumps. We also adopted to add additional limits to odor and noise and vibration. So the Clear Lake overlay zone is something that has already been established. It's already in place. And what we're wanting to do is adopt some of those things from the Clear Lake overlay zone and implement them with a public health overlay zone and possibly have this whole policy be citywide. And like I said before, worldwide. So as I said, the Clear Lake overlay zone has been established. I'm going to try not to be long-winded here because we have a full presentation, but the public health overlay zone, it will help better the quality of life for our neighbors. and give them safe, inclusive, and equitable rights that we all deserve. Clean air, clean water, clean soil, safe place to live, play, and raise our families. So I appreciate you listening to the very first portion of the Clear Lake Overlay Zone. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Paige. And again, at the end, we will answer any questions to the best of our ability. So thank you very much, and take it away, Paige.
Yeah, thanks, Archery. So with my portion of the presentation, we're going to go over and visualize what the public health overlay zone could look like, and considering what in the future to consider if the city of Eugene was to implement this. So with this map on the right, it has green lines going basically over the beige section, which is industrial zone land. And this is showing where the public health overlay zone would be applied to industrial areas around J.H. Baxter, just zooming in at one specific area. And so as Archery discussed and talked about in the Clear Lake overlay zone, there would be an additional additives to the public health overlay zone, such as strengthening the banned uses list from the Clear Lake overlay zone by adding additional manufacturing uses, such as semiconductor devices and others. There's a long list of some of the manufacturings that would be not allowed in this area or banned. And then we would also look at increasing and having stronger vibration, odors, and noise standards. For example, we would want to look at any emissions of smoke, dust, particulate, fumes, offensive odors, or gases that are visible to human senses, as well as any continuous or recurring noises and vibrations that it could impact the health or quality of life of community members who live in the surrounding area. And then also something to consider is that in the requirement, if someone or a developer was to apply or make any land use changes, you would have to consider a community meeting requirement before you would even submit your permit application. The developer would have to host a meeting with surrounding community members to review the development proposal and identify any issues regarding the proposal. And then once that's completed, LRAPA you would also have to be cleared with an LRAPA pre-clearance letter, which this is from LRAPA, the Lane County Regional Air Protection Agency. And what this would state is that the operations of this facility would meet the air quality standards with appropriate measurements in place to safeguard public health. Next slide, please. And so on this map on the right, we're looking at and going over and visualizing some of the indoor manufacturing requirements that Archery discussed. And going beyond that, the map on the right shows an example of where the indoor manufacturing requirement would apply in terms of land use planning next to residential and industrial areas. So this would expand the buffer zones for indoor manufacturing from the Clear Lake overlay zone to include areas within a quarter-mile buffer of homes, parks, schools from the new public health overlay zone. And something to consider here is this requirement could be made stronger by requiring no external air emissions, requiring an air quality permit. And this is also something that's the same as when it's required for commercial zoning. Next slide, please. So looking into now in rezoning areas with incompatible zoning, what we would want to consider is on the map on the right, we can visualize this and see that recent development has taken place of an apartment complex next to industrial zone land. This is around 18th and Willow Creek Road. And you can see that there is some industrial land right next to it. And there is more land slated for residential development to the south of that. And so it may be possible to rezone some of the land to create an additional buffer between industrial zones and residential schools and park areas. And basically what this would do is to prevent the development of industrial and other land uses next to each other that shouldn't be next to each other in the first place. Next slide, please, Meet. And so looking into the future, if we have the public health overlay zone, what does this mean if we look to continue to change our land use and also further expand our urban growth boundary as things continue to be built in Eugene? And it's important for us to consider what land use may look like in the future. What do we want to do in the future when the urban growth boundary expands or there are requests for landowners to rezone? How do we stop industrial land use next to residential? It's important that we think about these things now. And we need to make sure that the city creates rules for the future to halt the same land use mistakes we've made in the past from happening again. And as Audrey mentioned before, we don't want to continue to bring industrial polluters and toxic emitters into our communities where there are issues of public health and better quality of life for these community members. So with that said, if you could go to the next slide, Meet. Overall, with the public health lay zone, we're looking at community recommendations in 2 phases. One, immediately, we would like to create a public health overlay zone to protect public health, specifically industrial areas in Eugene and separating industrial from residential. We would want to ban the worst land uses, as well as creating that 1/4 mile buffer for indoor manufacturing requirements near homes, parks, and schools. We would also want to increase the standards for odor, noise, and vibration. Also, in the future, we really want to consider what rezoning undeveloped areas with conflicting land uses nearby, and also create rules that prevent zoning industrial area right next to residential for the sake of public health and healthier communities within Eugene. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mason and Meet to discuss our next portion of some of the work that we're working on at Beyond Toxics.
Thank you, Paige. Before we go on to Mason and Meet, I want to let everybody know that this applies to new facilities. This public health overlay zone applies to new facilities, just to make sure you know that.
So yeah, like existing facilities would be grandfathered in. They're not going to have to change anything. We would not have any immediate impacts to jobs or existing businesses, but as they choose to, as RG mentioned, renovate or significantly change their production practices, we would require them to adhere to these public health standards so we can phase these in over time. I am Mason. I am Beyond Toxics GIS coordinator and cartographer, and I'll be speaking with Meet Panchal today about a gas station moratorium. So I'm going to walk us through a bit why we decided that this would be a good policy and why we would encourage the city of Eugene to adopt it. And then Meet is going to talk about some of the environmental as well as public health costs of gas stations. So the main reason why we are proposing to ban construction on new gas stations is we have plenty. On this map, we have little red, turquoise, and blue points symbolizing already existing gas stations constructed in the last few years, and ones that are already under construction. The purple represents a 5-minute drive to a gas station. As you guys can see, everyone can access one within 5 minutes, and this is true all the way to Fern Ridge Reservoir, where the city is slated to expand, as we discussed in our previous slides. So we already have enough gas stations. I never see any long lines at them. I've never had to wait to refuel. And not only that, we're constructing new ones right across from existing ones. An excellent example of this to the River Road community would be 29 and 50. They're right across the interstate from each other. But one of the particular examples we like to point out for overburdened communities for pollution in Bethel and Danabo is the Four Corners of Roosevelt and Highway 99, which has 4 gas stations right all across the street from each other. So we're redundantly constructing them. And not only that, but the state of Oregon has a goal for all new vehicles that are sold within the state in 2035 to be 100% electric. So electric vehicles are coming, we're phasing out gas ones. And that means that by 2035, most studies show that 80% of gas stations will be unprofitable and not able to make money because we're going to be switching over to electric vehicles. And when we convert a gas station to a new land use, like a restaurant or et cetera, Meet's going to go over how environmentally expensive that is for the new landowner. Not to mention, they have existing public health burdens. If we could move to the next slide. The primary source of pollution that comes from gas stations are volatile organic compounds, which is a group of 100+ chemical compounds that share one common quality. When they're emitted into the atmosphere, they can travel distances long and far and blow with the wind all over the place, with concentrations growing higher the closer you are to the source of pollution. Volatile organic compounds break down in the sunlight and weather into harmful products like ground level ozone. While ozone is good for us high up in our atmosphere, protecting us from the sun rays, it's really bad for our lungs and nervous systems when it's very close to the surface, which is what happens when volatile organic compounds break down. Not to mention, many of these compounds have carcinogenic or acute health impacts on their own. And so I'm going to hand it over to Meet to discuss one of these VOCs, benzene, which is particularly prevalent with gas stations.
Thank you, Mason. So like one of the questions which comes to everybody's mind is like how, or it may come to your mind right now, like how do these emissions or hazardous emissions like VOCs or even benzene kind of emit from gas stations? You can see that during delivery or during even like storage of these of gasoline or even dispensing fuel at the gas station, gasoline fumes are usually released into the environment, and these vapors are usually full of hazardous chemicals such as which is harmful to our health. So, and this diagram kind of shows these different sources that allow vapors to escape into the atmosphere. And some of these emissions are, you can see like the vent on this side it's lost through that due to, from the underground storage tanks. It can also happen with leaky nozzles sometimes when you're filling up your gas tank, and also during like delivery of these of gasoline, when delivery trucks come to deliver the gas to the gas stations, or through spilled gasoline, for example. So these hazardous emissions, like you multiply them through like large volumes of gasoline which is sold at every gas station, and you combine that, the widespread distribution of gas stations everywhere across our communities, it can multiply. And in the next slide, we kind of focus more on the gasoline vapors. Usually contain like high levels of benzene, and they have been associated with childhood leukemia. We also see that this map kind of shows the distribution of the benzene health impacts. We also, the studies from 2019 have also shown that usually benzene emissions just from underground storage tanks were so high or like sufficiently high enough to constitute a health risk up to a distance of 500 feet. So if you live within 500 feet of a gas station or even closer, the exposure to benzene is much higher compared to someone who's not within that distance. And a lot of these science researchers have also suggested that childhood leukemia is also associated with living next to a gas station. And also the risk of the childhood leukemia is elevated when you have large amounts of environmental exposure to gasoline in general. And this example in this slide kind of shows more of the up close of gas stations in Bethel. You can see like the circle kind of shows a 500-foot buffer zone around how much the amount of benzene it can be emitted around those areas. So those black dots are basically residential homes around a gasoline station. And actually the California Air Resource Board was one of the first ones in the United States to recommend a minimum distance of a public health safety zone around new gas stations. And the board had actually recommended, I think, a minimum of 300 feet, kind of to separate kind of a distance between gas stations and sensitive land use, which could be residential houses schools, daycares. It could even be playgrounds and medical facilities for that matter. And on this bottom, in the bottom one where I'm circling, you can see that there are two gas stations right across each other. And it's right in a residential neighborhood as well, like the black dots, which are depicted out here. And this should be a concern because there have been other studies which was published actually in 2021 documenting the adverse health effects can be increased again from multiple gas stations in a neighborhood. And a perfect example of these two ones right next to each other. So when gas stations also come up with abandoned gas stations come with high cleanup costs. And when gas stations are usually abandoned, local communities are usually left to deal with the cleanup costs. And a large number of these abandoned gas stations have these old underground storage tanks, like in this picture on the left, which still have some presence of benzene or other toxic chemicals, which contaminate drinking water supplies. You can see this, you can see that image right out here. You can see some of the contamination mixing with the groundwater. And these two examples actually show us abandoned gas stations. On the left one, is more about the Texaco gas station, which was in Beaverton. This underground underground storage tank actually leaked in 1997, and the contaminations it contaminated the soil around it, and which caused from the tank lining to be deteriorated. And the site was also proclaimed to be an orphan site, which means that the owner actually abandoned it and didn't do an adequate cleanup for it. And the leaking petroleum tanks also left huge plumes contaminating the soil, which also affected actually the neighboring properties, which were residential as well. And the right one over here is actually a former gas station, a service station, which is now known as Sequential Biofuels, which is actually here in Eugene. It's also near the Lane County Community College, which was again left abandoned after petroleum contamination was discovered in 1991. And then the property actually came into the hands of Lane County through a tax foreclosure. And the cleanup actually required the soil to be excavated, installation of monitoring wells, and also collection and treatment of the groundwater, because groundwater was contaminated. And these costs usually from EPA estimated in a range of, I think, from 500,000 to $1 million. And the cleanup efforts for the former gas station, which is now Sequential, it costed approximately 1.2 million. And same for the one, the former Franco one, which is now a coffee roaster. They also had to splurge actually 1.2 million to revamp the site and clean up the site at the same time. With that, I'll pass it on to Mason again.
So not only do these gas stations and existing ones have acute environmental and public health impacts that will, either stay with us until they're gone or until someone is able to foot the bill for cleaning them up. But zooming out a little bit here from just our community, there's a lot of climate impacts that we need to consider here. In 2009, the city of Eugene committed to halving the amount of fossil fuels that we depend on as a city by 2035. And this is symbolized by the orange line on here. And as you guys can see, the blue line is where we're actually at. So we're falling very far short of fossil fuel reduction goals that the city has committed to making. They originally hoped to do all of this through increasing pedestrian, bike, and transit use, but that hasn't worked out so hot, especially because of the pandemic. So the main way that the city is now hoping to reach these goals is through electric vehicle sales. If we can move to the next slide. which is actually going a whole lot better than the transit and walkability goals. The green line is the current amount of electric vehicle sales per year. And in order to hit the city's goal, all we have to do is reach this yellow line and stay at it over the next decade. However, with current projections of electric vehicle sales, we are estimated to blow this line out of the water, meaning that we're going to have a lot more electric vehicles on the road than we might have anticipated. So not only is it important for us to get ahead and ban the theme that's impacting our water, air, and communities, and that is going to be phased out, but it's also important for us to look towards the future. And we're just wrapping up here, and we'll move to the next slide. This shows level 2 electric vehicle charging stations in the city. As you guys can see, there's a huge cluster around downtown and the University of Oregon, but West Eugene and River Road are left out of the equation unless you're looking to charge your vehicle at the Lane County Parole and Probation Office. We need to build out these electric vehicle chargers, and especially at places where people want to spend time, like parks, shopping centers, grocery stores, places that you're going to run a few errands and be able to leave your car charging in the last few, or while you're doing it. So it's important for us to increase incentives to construct those as well. And as we move to our last slide, we can see that there's also a huge deficit of level 3 electric vehicle chargers. And these are really important because they charge a vehicle in 15 to 30 minutes, as opposed to 4 to 10 hours, as the ones in the last slide did. And these are particularly crucial for people traveling around the state. As you guys can see, we have a whopping 1 level 3 charger in the entire city of Eugene in the Mercedes-Benz near Autzen Stadium. So it's imperative that we expand this charging infrastructure, especially along high travel routes like Highway 126, where people go to Florence, or along the Rende Pepe Beltline, or especially around I-5. But we should also include our neighbors in River Road and West Eugene when we're considering this infrastructure. So with that, we'll leave you with a couple of community recommendations on this last slide before some questions. One, guys, let's get ahead. Let's cut ourselves the costs of cleaning up gas stations in the future and the immediate health impacts such as cancer and asthma. Let's ban the bad thing first. We have enough. It's going to last us until we transition over, and our community is going to work great with the gas stations that we already have. But there are many ways, and this list is not comprehensive, that we would recommend the city work with eWeb or with us or with federal funding in order to better leverage that money and build out charging infrastructure along important travel corridors, as well as shopping centers where people are going to spend a bit of time. And so with that, we will spend the remainder of the meeting answering any questions you all might have. Thank you so much for your attention.
Do one of you from Beyond Toxics want to call on people, or you want me to call on people for you?
I can do it. Let's do it. Anyone
Okay.
with a question? Raise your hand.
Yeah, raise your hand we have
All right, let's start with B and Marv.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much for bringing this very important issue to the River Road community, because what is impacting the industry on Highway 99 and in the Bethel community really impacts our community as the air quality comes forth over to our area all the time. So my questions are, Mason, you made a statement about current businesses don't need to change anything when the public health overlay goes into play, but just when they decide to retrofit. I would suggest that they really do need to change, because we're being contaminated by those issues now. And if we wait 5 more years, it continues to impact the public health of everyone that's being affected. So if you could respond to that. And then question number 2 is, will this public health overlay zone give LRRCO the appropriate authority to stop development? Because I know there have been other issues that LRRCO hasn't felt that they had the authority. And so I'm hoping that that has some clout behind it. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much for your question. And yeah, I'd want to emphasize your point exactly. Murphy Plywood is also a wood manufacturer, just like J.H. Baxter. And in terms of the toxicity that LRRCO evaluated, they're on a whole different level than J.H. Baxter. Unfortunately, we cannot, with this policy, come out and affect current land uses. There's a lot of precedent for that, and city councilors may not be as keen on that. However, we at Beyond Toxics are doing work like this all the time. We are constantly out air monitoring in our communities and raising community voices, and we really hope to really rally support from you all and everyone when Murphy Plywood goes through the Cleaner Air Oregon process. That will be our big opportunity for us to step in on an existing facility to make sure and let the LRRCO and the DEQ know that we need stronger public health protections when considering building this facility. So that battle's coming, and we're excited to fight it. But the public health overlay zone is going to operate with grandfathering people in, although personally, I agree with the urgency 100%. This will, to answer your second question, this policy will have more teeth than LRRCO does, because we are banning the worst uses outright. So if Murphy Plywood ever decides to retrofit, they're a plywood manufacturing facility. They're not going to be able to in that current land use, because it is going to be a banned land use through the public health overlay zone. So by banning this, along with like petrochemical manufacturing and other incredibly toxic industrial processes, LRRCO doesn't even have to stop them, because it's just not legal for the zoning. And so the city has no obligation to approve it, and in fact couldn't approve it even if they wanted to. So yeah, this will have a bit more teeth than LRRCO does, and I'm really excited about that.
Thank you very much.
I think Julie raised her hand second, and then it was Stefan. Is that correct? Okay, awesome. Julie, please.
Thank you. I want to thank you for a wonderful presentation. All four of you did a great job. As a long-term and long-time supporter of Beyond Toxics, it's wonderful to see Beyond Toxics becoming more of a prevalent voice in our community and doing outreach like this evening. I was wondering about if you have any updates for us regarding what the current status is with J.H. Baxter. I know that they were going through negotiations with the state, with the DEQ, regarding leveraging of some pretty heavy duty fines. They were discussing bankruptcy and so forth. I'm curious where we're at with negotiations with J.H. Baxter and what might be some plans for that land in the future. Again, thank you.
Marjorie, I'll turn that over to you.
Yes, thank you, Julie, for asking that question. I don't know how many folks know about the EPA now being involved in what's going on over at J.H. Baxter. It's just such a mess. The EPA has stepped in, and they are going to be doing their own testing, further testing within that, right up against where J.H. Baxter is. They're going to step out a little bit further towards Elmira and Baxter Street, La Casa, like right over there off of Elmira Road. There's going to be some more sampling happening out that way. As far as what's going on with J.H. Baxter, we have only now, and I'm saying we have, but it's the EPA, has only now been able to get onto the property to see what's going on there, because Georgia Baxter has not wanted to allow us to be there. So now that we have the authority to be there because she has said yes, then we're able to go in and do more work with J.H. Baxter. I mean, it was on hold for a long time because we couldn't get onto the property. They still have not paid their fines. You know, the fine has increased. They still have not paid those fines. So we're working towards getting the polluter to pay, because it should not be on the backs of the community and taxpayers. So things are moving and progressing with JH Baxter as far as sampling, and that should be happening early 2023. So coming right up, we should be doing some sampling, and those samples take 6 to 8 weeks to come back. So once those samples are back, then we will share the information with the residents that had their yards sampled, and then share it out with the broader community. So yeah, there's going to be some testing happening pretty soon. The problem with removing the soil from these places is that initially we thought it was going to be 12 inches, and now we have to go down as much as 3 feet. So we're running into an issue with not having enough fill to fill these holes that we're going to be making in folks' yards, because they want to make sure that whatever soil they're putting back into the community is not contaminated. And there just isn't enough soil right now to do that. So it's a lot that's going on, but things are looking good and they're going in the right direction. And if we get this public health overlay zone enacted, then we won't have any more bad actors like this being able to just set up shop and pollute.
Awesome. With that, Stefan, please.
Yes. First of all, I want to say that I'm totally supportive of the initiative on gas stations. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. But I've got some real concerns about the overlay, and there seems to be a very anti-industry bias there. I mean, the community needs jobs, and industry provides jobs, and manufacturing is more likely to provide family wage jobs than other kinds of employment. And I'm wondering why the focus is on limiting what industry, I mean, and industry has to be located within the urban growth boundary, just like residential development needs to be within the urban growth boundary. So I'm wondering why the focus is on limiting what manufacturing can do, rather than perhaps restricting residential development near industry or industrial zoned property. It seems a little backward if we want to have jobs and economic opportunity in our community, and also a tax base. What would be the result of eliminating industry from our tax base? So it seems a little backward to me.
Yeah, so I totally understand your concerns. And that's one of the reasons why we've gone with a grandfather, right? We don't want to impact anyone's current jobs. But the second thing that we have going on here is we're specifically trying to be selective about which industries we allow into our community. Can we maximize certain industries that are less impactful to public health and still provide adequate jobs and good wages with those jobs? The other thing is you are very correct. We have to have industrial zoning inside our urban growth boundaries. Eugene couldn't eliminate it even if they wanted to. The state mandates it. And so it's again being selective about which types of industrial uses we allow and where we allow them. If you guys remember on our presentation, we had an example of the urban growth boundary expanding into the Fern Ridge Reservoir area. Railroads already transport a lot of hazardous chemicals that are dangerous to public health on them. So we should conglomerate those things in one area. Let's construct the industry near railroads so we can have jobs in our community. We can have that taxpayer base, And we can have that funding, but we limit it to a certain area and we concentrate it. And then we build other less used land uses around the sides, like commercial. You and I might go shopping for a couple of hours, right? And in that shopping, we're within a half mile of industrial areas, or sorry, a quarter mile of industrial areas, right? And so for a couple hours, we're being exposed to that pollution, but that's far better than it being the 16 hours or 14 hours that you spend at home. So reducing the amount of time to exposure to pollution is a really big thing. And that's where the decision of where to locate certain land uses is super important. We want to place commercial next to industrial, but we don't want to place residential, schools, or parks right next to industrial, because that's how kids and families are going to be exposed a whole lot more.
But you're
Mason-
putting this, you're putting this
Mason, we have only
overlay.
two more minutes for this conversation.
Perfect. So yeah, Stefan, please reach out. I'm happy to talk anytime. So with that, I'll pass it off to Harry.
Yeah, so Stefan, a great question. Thanks Beyond Toxics for the presentation. My concern is I lived in North Carolina for a while, and we had, what was essentially a Superfund site that was a similar thing, benzenes and other zenes I can't pronounce, leached into the soil and essentially created a completely untenable property that could never be developed ever in the future. It's been sitting there for decades. How do you clean up J.H. Baxter? Where do we even start with that, and what does that look like?
There are other ways to clean up J.H. Baxter. As Audrey mentioned, excavating the soil seems to be less realistic of an option, but there are other things that we can do, such as capping the existing soil with something else to create a layer of safety between that and the toxicity. This actually, anyways, I won't get too into it, but there's other ways of cleaning that up. And there are some very real cases where, this area might be uninhabitable. And the purpose of a public health overlay zone is to prevent us from creating more of those within inside of our community. So the idea is proactive prevention here, to stop these kinds of things from happening. And the reason why we want to put this on the industry is because we think that corporations who put the pollution there ought to be responsible for cleaning it up, rather than forcing residents to move out of there. And there's a serious equitability issue there, is we're asking a bunch of low-income folks to lose access to their one piece of generational wealth that they're building. And that's why it's incredibly important to ask the industry to accommodate rather than residents, so that we can preserve the lives that people have built, and ask industry to move elsewhere. That way we're moving these cleanup sites far away from where people live.
Fantastic, you guys. Well done. Just can you make one comment about what is our next step? What do you ask? What's you ask of us?
Email City Council. Tell them that this policy is important to you and that it is on your radar. I think Audrey also may have another suggestion. I think we also have a petition. I'm not sure if it's still active.
Thank you, Mason.
Yes, I will put my email in the chat, and I can answer and help any questions that we weren't able to answer tonight, because I see some things in the chat that might be easier for us to not monopolize your meeting. I see River Road, you have to talk something about the school. So I'm going to put my email address here in the chat.
Well, I'm glad we had a good amount of time to dig into this stuff. John, over to you.
Okay. Well, we've had a request to have a discussion about what we want to say, what we think about reusing the North Eugene High School building. I will share with you, I listened to the presentation. There is a fiscal question involved here. It will take a significant amount of money to repurpose the school. And that's what the school board is being asked for. Do you want to spend, I forget, I think it was somewhere around $1 million to make this building available. So with that, why don't we open it up for questions, thoughts, whatever, in the 8 minutes we have left. If you want to raise your hand, I'll call on you. Yeah, there we go. Bobby Joe, you're first. And you're muted. There you go.
$1 million is not much to pay to recover a building of that scale. When you look at just the cost of demolishing it would be a good chunk of that. And then you lose a resource that would have to be replaced elsewhere, or the expense comes out. $1 million to get that building back into shape and repurpose it is a bargain.
Good point. A couple of things. First of all, I'm not sure it's $1 million. That's what I think I remember, but it may be more or less. The other thing is that North Eugene High School is deficit in athletic fields as it sits now. And the concern is that if they don't take down the site and turn it into athletic fields, I'm not advocating, I'm just reporting, that would be problematic potentially for that school. Harry?
So I'm not sure if Craig Gibbons is on right now, but he gave an excellent presentation at the last board meeting. I'd love to hear from him because he has the facts and figures.
Well, yes, I can provide a little bit of information.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah. Apparently, this discussion about what to do with North Eugene High School has been going on for over a year. And committees have met, and well, we've kind of missed the boat, I think, for those committees. But the bottom line today is that rehabbing the school to make it a building that could be occupied is $30 million, according to their evaluation. Tearing the building down and building the soccer fields, $12 million. The idea behind the soccer fields is that they want North Eugene High School to have the same acreage of fields for athletics as the other schools in the district. The other factor that's playing into that is that the Japanese immersion school, which was at Silver Lee on the same street as North Eugene, has temporarily moved over to Colin Kelly. But is that a good solution, or is relocating the Japanese immersion school play into the North Eugene thing? The next update is going to be the 15th of the month, Wednesday. At the school board meeting, they're going to hear from some committee that has been talking about this situation. That's as much as I know, and I don't present any of that as factual information. I'm just reporting what I've heard and read.
Well, it sounds like it's better than my misinformation. Thank you, Craig. Any other hands up? Well, Harry, I don't see anybody else, so you can have a second bite at the apple.
Sure. Claire, you had your hand up, did you not?
I did, but just a quick comment that tearing down existing buildings is ecologically bad practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was my 2 cents. Part of that $30 million cost is that they're including SDCs in there that are one government agency charging another government agency money that there should be room to work with if that building is continuing to provide a community benefit, continuing. So 4J went out for a bond a couple elections ago to build the new North Eugene High School. And they had promised the YG and corridor parents that they weren't going to lose their schools, that they were going to be relocated into the old North Eugene once the new one was built. And so there's a lot of concern here for those parents that are now, well, corridor's gone and YG is co-located, and what's going to happen with the future of those. At some point, either Kelly or YG is going to need a new facility, and where's the money and where's the land for that going to come from? You know, the other thing with the old North Eugene, some of that building is 70 years old, which with South are the oldest high schools in the city. There are also additions that are only about 20 years old. You know, we just finished paying for these things that they're going to tear down. So yeah, what's the highest and best use for that is the question. And I unfortunately don't have the answer, but that's why I was hoping we could discuss a little. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. We've got about 3 more minutes. So Gary and Sarah, do you have quick comments or questions? Sir, Gary?
Quick question. Do we have any idea of what we would use the building for if we remodeled it?
Does anyone have the answer to that? I'm sure there would be somebody who would step up, but I don't know what is proposed. Sarah?
Well, it sounds like like Kelly has 3 schools all in one right now. They're filled at capacity and their building isn't really any different. I mean, their gym fell down last school year. Like, so sorry for my sore throat. There's a lot of schools here that have needs. My concern is what it seemed like at the board meeting last time we were there. It didn't seem like the school board knows the community is behind saving it or demolishing it. And so just to get some voices and to collaborate, is it worth saving? I think it's a gym. I mean, I just moved from Nebraska 2 years ago. We just saved 3 old historic, school buildings. It can be done. And it is more physically, I mean, money wise, and just it is the school's land already. So you're not buying new land. I understand the need for soccer fields, but I also think when you look at, if you surveyed North, sports is not high priority at that school anyway. And they've made it so far without it. And Kelly has a lot of land, I would say, for that possibly. I mean, that has been talked about either. So there's just a lot there. But I'm just wondering, how could there be a get together of like, does the community want this or not?
Well, I suggest you ask the school board to have a public hearing.
Oh.
Stefan, you got the last minute.
Just really quickly, I think there's also been talk of trying to use that building for low-income housing as well. So there are other possible uses besides school facilities.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. I'll sneak in, Dan, but make it quick.
Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion as well. I mean, vacant land right now is a premium, especially for housing, and all the housing is going to be built in River Road or out West 11th. So that land is probably worth, once it's torn down, 15 million, somewhere in that range for developed housing that we desperately need. So 15 million goes a long way for teacher pay and for STEM programs and for all the CTE programs we want for developing our kids. So is that a better use than a soccer field? I would argue that STEM programs and the like are of a much greater value.
Great. Thank you, everybody. We are at 8:30, so I'm gonna call it quits. Do contact the school board. We gave that information out in the e-news as to how you can best do that. We'll get it on the webpage as well. Good questions. It's not an easy solution to come up with. So let's Ford J School Board know what your thoughts are. Please consider joining us on the board. That information will be out there as well. Thank you, everybody.